As of January 1st, 2005, all underground storage tanks, or USTs, must have a state-certified designated operator. The role of the designated operator has two primary responsibilities. One, conduct monthly visual inspections of the UST facility, and two, provide basic on-the-job training for all facility employees. Not every person employed by a UST site falls into the facility employee definition. If you can be called upon to respond to spills, overfills, site emergencies, or have a hand in day-to-day operation of the UST, consider yourself a facility employee. This video is meant to provide the required training for facility employees and will give you an idea of what to expect when you see Thornton Environmental Construction every 30 days.
The state of California requires that this form be completed once every 30 days. This form must be filled out by one of the Thornton Environmental Construction representatives holding a current ICC certification as California UST System Operator. This is a task that cannot be delegated. Our responsibility is to examine all relevant points of your UST system and to provide a visual inspection of your UST system. We will be examining the following UST system points. The monitoring panel. This is a typical monitoring panel. This is our first stop on our inspection. We look for any active alarms or alarms less than 30 days old. Ideally, nothing will ever give you an alarm condition, but this can happen from time to time. If we see any active alarms or alarms less than 30 days old, then they will be documented on the monthly designated operator form. The monthly visits are only an inspection. The designated operator's responsibility is to document all alarm conditions on our monthly inspection and any alarms within the last 30 days. Sumps are large access ports that generally lead to underground piping connections and submersible turbine pumps. These will not necessarily be opened on every visit. If there has been a sump alarm, then we will need to access that sump to see what caused the alarm or if that condition still exists. Spill containment structures, commonly referred to as spill buckets, are the points of the UST where fuel is delivered. These buckets can either be mounted inside of a sump or buried directly into the ground. They must hold a minimum of 5 gallons of liquid and must be kept free of both water and fuel at all times. USTs with diesel product will normally have only a single spill bucket, whereas USTs with unleaded products will all have 2 spill buckets, one for fuel delivery and one for vapor recovery. The presence of water, fuel, or debris inside of a spill bucket is an adverse condition that will be documented appropriately on the monthly designated operator form. Dispenser and under dispenser containment. We will now talk about various types of fueling dispensers. These are the points of the UST where the product flows. Whether filling the tank of a vehicle or supplying fuel to a generator, this is where the underground pipes that come off of the tank will lead. As designated operator, we are required to open the doors of fuel dispensers, examine containment vaults of day tanks and return tanks, and inspect underneath any pump sets for signs of product accumulation. We will also be verifying placement of sensors to indicate they are situated in an appropriate depth to go into alarm if any liquids accumulate. Not all UST piping will lead to the same equipment types. It is the responsibility of both the facility employees and the designated operator to know all of the endpoints of the fuel system. The final leg of the monthly designated operator visit is the paperwork inspection. There are 3 forms that Thornton Environmental Construction will need to verify on a monthly basis. The annual monitoring certification, as the name suggests, must be renewed every year. As your designated operator, we must document the presence of this certification on site, and we will notify facility employees if the dates are expired. This document is used to confirm that your UST system is in working condition and that all of the remote points of leak detection have been tested and verified operational at the time of the certification. The spill buckets also have an annual test form. This date will usually, but not always, match the date of the annual monitoring certification. This document is used to show that on an annual basis the spill containment structures have been demonstrated to be liquid tight if passed. The SB 989 form, or secondary containment form, is generated from a series of tests that are performed once every 3 years. Points included in these tests are the annular spaces of the UST, the underground piping runs, and the sumps. On our monthly visits, we will be asking if any new facility employees have been hired within the last 30 days, who need to be given the proper designated operator training. So what exactly do we mean by the term facility employee? Not every person employed by a UST site falls into the facility employee definition. If you can be called on to respond to fills, overfills, site emergencies, or have a hand in the day-to-day operation of the UST, then watching and understanding this video will fulfill your facility employee training requirement. You will also be required to sign and date a form stating that you have received this instruction. As a facility employee, the first and easiest thing you need to know about the safe and proper operation of a UST is who to contact in case there is an emergency. These contacts could include your local fire department, the owner of the UST, your chosen state certified contractor, or your local regulator responsible for hazardous materials. It's important to know that any contractor that you hire for repairs must be certified as a California underground storage tank technician. Also, that any documentation that is produced after the repair or testing of your equipment should be copied and attached to the California Designated Operator's paperwork for that month. If you don't already have a list of contacts, then one needs to be generated and posted near your leak detection panel or in plain view near a dispenser or the tank itself. This list should include the name, title, and phone number of that person, and any notes that may be of interest to someone needing to contact them.
Every site should have an emergency response plan. You should know where the plan is and should also be familiar with the basic steps in the plan.
Facility employees should make themselves familiar with the site's emergency response plan with respect to the location of all fire extinguishers, emergency shutoffs, emergency contact phone numbers, material safety data sheets, emergency eye wash stations, spill kits, and evacuation procedures. You should review the plan maps so that you know where to meet and what route to take in case of evacuation. The location of fire extinguishers are also important to know as well. There should be MSDS sheets for any hazardous chemicals located on site. These sheets detail the hazardous properties and possible reactions presented to the products in the USTs and other chemicals on site.
Facility employees should be conducting daily visual inspections of all dispensers, hoses, nozzles, and any exposed piping. Take note of any leaks, weather damage, or wet spots around the base of the dispensers. Monitoring panels should be checked to verify that the system is powered up and no alarm condition exists. Manway covers should be checked to verify that they are in place and bolted down where applicable. The covers of spill and vapor buckets need to be properly set into place. Covers left ajar can cause both damage to passing vehicles and injury to pedestrians. All deficiencies should be addressed as soon as possible and equipment shut down until repairs can be made if leaks or significant damage exists.
Best management practice means any UST system management and operation practice that is most effective and practical in providing or reducing the probability of release. Having a UST monitoring plan, performing daily inspections, and maintaining site equipment, reconciling inventory reports, and having an emergency response plan are all essential components of the best management practices.
Every UST site has monitoring system alarms from time to time. In the past, these alarms were silenced or acknowledged and then ignored by some UST owners or facility employees. In some cases, the sensors would even be moved so that the alarms could be further ignored.
The state of California has addressed this problem by requiring that the California designated operator for each UST do a monthly inspection of the monitoring system and keep records of all of these monthly inspections. Let's take a look at how the system works so that you can understand why these alarms are so important. The most commonly monitored part of any underground tank is called the annular space. Almost all of the USTs in California are double-walled. That is to say that there is a tank inside of a tank. The space between the primary and secondary walls of the tank is referred to as the annular or interstitial space. This alarm may appear on your leak monitor as an annular alarm, a tank alarm, or a leak alarm. This type of alarm is important to understand because the part of the tank that is being monitored is that space between the double walls of the tank. This could indicate a leak in the walls of the inner or outer tank. This alarm, as with all monitoring system leak alarms, should not be ignored. Another commonly monitored part of a UST is the sump. There are a few different types of sumps. Piping sumps are one type where the product lines come out of the tank. These pipelines are almost always double-walled as well. These product lines can go to a dispenser, a generator, or a day tank. These product pipes are installed in such a way that they have a natural downhill slope that puts the sump at the lowest level and the dispensing point at the highest level. The reason for this slope is so that in the event of a leak in the primary product pipe, fluids will drain downhill through the secondary containment and back into the sump. In this way, the liquid sensor within the sump will detect the liquid accumulation and sound an alarm at the panel. All piping sumps are required to have leak detection. There are other sump types as well. Whether your site has piping sumps, fill sumps, or transition sumps, in any combination, the general idea is the same. In any case, this is another important alarm that you may receive. On your alarm panel, it may show up as a sump alarm or leak alarm. Another type of alarm is a high-level or overfill alarm. This type of alarm is an indication that the tank has too much fuel. Too much fuel is defined by the state as above 95% of the tank's total capacity by volume. This alarm is meant to alert the delivery driver to stop filling the UST. If an overfill alarm occurs, check to see if there is any spillage. If so, we will cover what to do in the next section. Another type of alarm may be a low-level alarm or delivery-needed alarm. This type of alarm is not a major issue, right? Well, it may actually be a problem if ignored for too long, especially in UST systems that use submergible turbine pumps. If fuel is not ordered, the level of fuel could fall below the reach of the pump. With some systems, if a customer continues to turn the pump on, serious damage could occur to the submersible pump. Other alarms that also may occur include sensor out alarms, probe out alarms, water alarms, and a few others. These alarms may not indicate a leak, however they do limit the ability of the leak monitor to detect more urgent problems. If you do see any of these alarms discussed, contact Thornton Environmental Construction. There should be a clearly visible certification sticker on your leak monitor with the date of the most recent monitoring system certification. There should also be contact information on the sticker. All contact information for Thornton Environmental Construction can be found on our service orders as well as our designated operator inspection forms. When choosing a contractor for repairs, make sure that the contractor you use is certified by the state of California as an underground storage tank technician. Once repairs are made, you will want a copy of the service order attached directly to the designated operator's monthly report. This way, when a problem is documented by the designated operator, there is a record of how the problem was corrected for immediate review by the hazardous materials inspector of your county or city. All leak alarms must be documented in the alarm log and kept on site. This log is of extreme importance to UST sites where the monitoring panel is unable to print a report of the date and time when alarms occur. All alarms need to be responded to, and the cause, correction, repair, or equipment replacement documented. Ask yourself this simple question. If the equipment fails to operate properly with no leak present, then how well is it expected to operate when you do have a leak? If alarms are occurring due to water intrusion, faulty wiring, or equipment failures, these too must be logged and the appropriate corrective action taken and documented. Becoming accustomed to frequent alarm conditions from causes other than leaks can have an effect of desensitizing the facility employees. As the monitoring equipment becomes older, so does the tank and the piping. This combination going unchecked can lead to costly cleanup. Remember, if you can't keep the water out, you can't keep the product in. The proper response of facility employees to spills can be very important to the safety of others as well as the environment and yourself.
Every site should have a spill containment kit. Usually located next to a dispenser, the spill kit should include gloves, eye protection, a non-sparking shovel or broom, and plenty of fuel absorbent. If there's a spill of a few gallons, you should be able to clean it up by spreading the absorbent across the spill area.
If there is a spill of a few gallons, you should be able to clean it up by spreading the absorbent across the spill area, then using a shovel to mix the absorbent into the fuel. Once the fuel has soaked into the absorbent material, transfer the now saturated material into a drum suitable for hazardous waste. If one is unavailable, shovel the absorbent into a bucket to later be transferred into a waste drum. Label the drum as hazardous and call an appropriate company for disposal. Thornton Environmental Construction does not dispose of hazardous waste. However, you can call us or ask your designated operator who you can use for disposal. Log the spill and what was done about it. Everyone at the site should also know where the emergency shutoff switch is. This is especially important for sites that use pressurized systems. A potentially large and dangerous situation can be prevented by simply knowing where your emergency shutoff switch is.
As your site's designated operator, we will be generating forms at each of our visits that will need to be kept in a specific location. These forms all serve to establish a record of compliance with both the state of California as well as your local regulator. It is important to know that this trail of documents will need to include additional forms. Any alarm condition that results in service action needs to be added to this paperwork. Alarms are meant to be responded to before the monthly designated operator visit. It is highly discouraged to have an alarm showing on your panel that is discovered by the designated operator. Thornton Environmental Construction will provide at an additional cost a manual alarm log to those sites that have monitoring panels that do not generate any alarm history report. Some of the older leak detection equipment can't give a time and date that alarm was triggered. Having a manually kept alarm log will help to establish a track record of compliance to any regulatory agencies. If there is an on-site record that illustrates months on end of visual inspections without alarm conditions, then most regulators will be more satisfied with reviewing the alarm log than simply hearing someone say on site, there haven't been any problems. All facility employees need to be familiar with the location of the leak monitor panel. We try and streamline our monthly visits by placing photocopies of the necessary paperwork at a place nearby this panel. These are only copies, but if the dates are current, then it is unnecessary to actually pull the UST file and hunt down the originals at every visit. If these copies are removed, then we will not be able to complete our visit without verification of the official documents. Simply going off the dates of the previous month's designated operator form is unacceptable. At the conclusion of each visit, the designated operator monthly inspection form will be submitted for signature to a facility employee assigned to your UST site. At this time, we will let you know where your site stands and inform your facility employee of conditions that will require follow-up action.
Remember that proper UST site maintenance is a serious task that includes the participation of all parties. The facility employees are the first in line for detecting alarms on the equipment, as well as reporting maintenance issues for follow-up action. The designated operator performs a more thorough inspection, but is ultimately not there to make repairs. We work to guide the attention of both your staff and UST repair technicians to conditions that, if left unchecked, may result in damage to the environment and/or compliance violations. In working together with your assigned UST designated operator and following your facility's best management practices, your site will be able to demonstrate the necessary compliance with both the spirit and the letter of the law.